Destiny 1's most difficult raid at the time, and easily the most memorable for me, was the King's Fall raid. King's Fall had players fighting through some of the toughest and most memorable bosses in Destiny, like the Warpriest, Golgoroth, Daughters of Oryx, and of course the man himself, Oryx. It's a one-of-a-kind experience that is an epic journey from beginning to end, and in this video I want to share why I think this raid is the best in all of Destiny. And to do so, I want to step you guys through my team's first ever completion of this raid. Now the raid begins by slam dunking balls of light in Oryx's court like the Harlem Globetrotters. While it's not quite a difficult encounter, it was a great start to opening the portal to Oryx's throne world. After entering the portal and covering quite a bit of ground, my team and I could already tell that we were embarking on quite the chilling adventure. The first encounter you hit is a jumping puzzle on moving hive ships. And honestly, this puzzle doesn't make much sense on the surface. I mean, random hive ships just maneuvering in random pathways. It makes a lot less sense than the Vault of Glass jumping puzzle that is a bit more believable in the context of mysterious time warping. Nonetheless, the ship moving puzzle was nothing short of a good time to work through. Eventually, we did arrive at the first real encounter of the raid, the totem encounter. Now, it didn't take too long to understand the mechanics of this puzzle, but executing it was challenging for our team as there was a lot of communication and chaos going on between the two separate teams of three. Our ridiculous solution at the time was to have one team stay in Xbox Live party chat, while the other team stayed in game chat so not to jumble up the comms. And as corny as that shit sounds, it worked out perfectly for us, and in no time we made our way through that encounter. Immediately after the totems was the Warpriest, and to this day that guy is still one of my favorite Destiny bosses. The atmosphere of his arena is one of the best, and his character design was so badass. His puzzle-like mechanic initially seemed overwhelming, but after we finally understood you didn't need to read hive language, we found it to actually be fairly simple. We were challenged in coordination and communication skills to juggle the mechanics while also ensuring we could output enough DPS in the maximum of 4 damage phases. And like most Destiny raids, especially Destiny 1 as it was more difficult to do so, staying alive was huge to our success. After a good 4 hours on this beast, we finally slayed him, leaving us feeling like absolute legends. Now after we defeated the Warpriest, it was time to call it quits for the night, so day 2 we started up on Golgoroth. Now this dude was no fucking joke, and I don't think any of us were prepared for how much work this guy was going to take to defeat. Golgoroth took our team almost all day to beat. We faced much trial and error and crafted some crazy ass theories on how to beat this fight. We were having everyone just shoot his back for DPS, thinking that would work. We had guys suggesting Curse Thrall gave Golgoroth his health back. We had guys play some bubbles to avoid the chasing orbs from Golgoroth, until that plan quickly fell through as the orbs just tore through Titan bubbles and destroyed everyone inside.
Plus more come up. Wait, what are you shooting? You're shooting the one that he's standing under.
Oh my god, it blew up my bubble. Holy fuck nuts.
It was a bitch to get through, and it took us quite a while to figure out the complex and excellently crafted mechanics for the fight, but eventually we got it down. Now it was just a matter of attempting it endlessly until we prevailed. We came so close so many times to beating him until the craziest thing happened. We had Golgoroth on the ropes, dead to rights. He only had the slightest sliver of health left, and we just finished a DPS phase. Our screen started turning black and we all started yelling, "Just shoot him, we can still kill him." And as many of you know, the amount of damage you do to Golgoroth is complete ass cheeks when you're not in a DPS phase. But we unloaded all we had. As the screen was almost completely black and we were firing blindly at Golgoroth's body, we heard the infamous ogre yell as Golgoroth fell to the ground. But we couldn't see shit as our screen was black, but it appeared we had killed him. But the timing could not have been more close as the game still wiped my team and I, and in this moment, we felt defeated. However, by the grace of RNGesus, upon respawn there was a pile of loot on the ground where Golgoroth had been standing and my team and I rushed down to grab the goodies. Needless to say, Golgoroth dropped some excellent loot that boosted our light level substantially, but we still had to beat him again to progress. With our newly acquired power, we stomped Golgoroth all the way back to hell the very next attempt, making it look effortless. As we made our way forward, we stumbled upon a massive gullied landscape where a taken orb sat. We inched forward to touch the blight, and before we knew it, our characters were flying across the massive space thanks to what's now known as the Dick Wall. My team and I spent a good 45 minutes just laughing, getting knocked around like a game of Wipeout. It was a perfect change of pace from what was the hardest fight of our lives just minutes prior. After navigating the Dick Wall of Chaos, we made it to the door that leads to the final arena. As the door slowly opened, it revealed that we were outside the Dreadnought looking out at the endless space around us. It's easily one of the greatest atmospheric designs Bungie has ever created, and my team and I stood in awe and fear, not moving a muscle in case we were to trigger the encounter. That's when my buddy Huge quietly whispered, "Is anyone else in third person?" Confused, we all turned to him slowly and realized this man is fucking invisible. It was absolute chaos. The Daughters mechanic wasn't too hard to figure out for us, but our problem was a matter of DPS. The first daughter could be killed no problem within the allotted DPS time given, but that meant we had to kill the next daughter in one DPS phase as well. We couldn't quite get the second daughter in one phase, which meant that we had to drag the fight out to 4 DPS phases instead of 2, meaning more plate cycle runs and more room for error. Because of silly mess-ups like hopping off the plate too early, accidentally killing one of the sisters too soon, or some other screw-up, my team and I took a good amount of time to clear this encounter. Honestly, the most memorable thing though was the loudest screams of all time when one of the daughters died.
Snipes, dudes.
Yep.
It is the way of the future. If I could hit a shot.
Hey, I think we have to kill her in the next 13 seconds.
Yeah, we do. There it is. There it is. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Give me that loot.
What came next was the most fear-inducing reveal in Destiny's history, something nobody expected or was prepared to take on. Oryx.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh god, oh god,
Oh my god. Oh my god.
oh my god.
Yeah, he's coming in.
You guys spawn right here.
Holy shit.
Oh, that's my boy.
He looks big.
Okay, nope.
Oh my fucking what?
Nope.
He's immune.
The massive Oryx reveal is the greatest thing we've ever got in Destiny, and it seriously scared the shit out of everyone and really made the fight harder than it probably was out of sheer intimidation felt by the players. I know for my team, we basically gave up shortly after his reveal to call it a night, because after getting to this point, we didn't have the energy to figure out what the hell to do, so we came back the next day to give it a solid attempt. Day 3, we spent most of the day just trying to figure out the mechanics. Once we thought we had something figured out, a new mechanic would appear, and we'd then have to learn that. This fight was definitely the hardest one to execute for our team. Between being under-leveled for the fight and making lots of mistakes, we just couldn't quite nail this fight, and we would eventually have to come back the next day to a lot more unsuccessful attempts. After many hours, we realized we wouldn't be able to beat this bastard before the reset Tuesday morning. So we called it and came back after reset to run this shit again. Tuesday night came and the boys were clocking out of work, ready to come home and kick some Oryx ass. We hopped on, stomped through the raid we'd become experts at by now, getting to Oryx in just under 3 hours. And so began our many attempts to finally kill this bastard once and for all. After a few hours, we finally made it happen, culminating in the biggest relief and sense of accomplishment I've ever felt in a video game. In the coming days and weeks, my team and I continued to destroy the Kingsfall raid, running it many times and defeating Oryx again and again, always satisfied to watch Oryx's body turn to stone and float away towards Saturn. But besides the fun memories and the nostalgia, why do I praise this raid and consider it to be Destiny's best? Well, there's a few really good points that I think sum it up. For one is the villain, Oryx. Oryx was a very well established villain that we'd been hyping up to fight for months prior to the Taken King's launch, as well as continually dealing with him throughout the story campaign. Not to mention he was Crota's father, with whom we had a prior encounter with Crota himself. All this build-up really helped the player feel like this raid on Oryx meant something for the story, and for it all to come together in such an epic finale was nothing short of incredibly cinematic and badass. For example, I loved The Last Wish, but I couldn't really connect with Riven as the villain. The game had us chasing down Uldren for revenge, so Riven felt like she just kinda came out of nowhere. Another point would be the length of King's Fall. The sheer number of bosses, encounters, and the ground you covered really made you feel like this was a massive raid in scale. It was an all-out adventure to go through this raid, and no other raid felt so monumental. The only letdown with this raid was the loot. The weapons in particular were almost all awful besides the machine gun and the sniper rifle. King's Fall continued to please with hard mode, challenge modes, and the raid exotic, Touch of Malice, that literally houses Oryx's soul. King's Fall is the gold standard for Destiny raids, and I believe that's why Last Wish is also so beloved, because it shares many similarities with King's Fall. But that's just one man's opinion. King's Fall is definitely my favorite Destiny raid, but I want to know what you guys think. Was King's Fall your favorite raid, or something else like Vault of Glass? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more Destiny videos just like this one.